of January in the prior years, we go back to basics, so we've been doing that all month. And some of the talks have had long names, and some of them have had short names, and some of them have had made-up names. Today is a long name. So it's a long name when I have to read the name looking down. So the name of today's talk is Developing the Consciousness to See the Absolute and the Spiritual Truth in All Things. I kind of boiled it down to developing the consciousness of truth. Because that is really where we want to be, developing the consciousness of truth and living it. Knowing what it means and then living it. So we are in January, the month of, as I said, new beginnings for some, if you make that intention. And traditionally, we always return to our Science of Mind roots, which is what we're doing today. And we go over those 4 pre-chapters in the Science of Mind textbook. Those 4 pre-chapters are just filled with a basis, the real foundation of what we are practicing here. And what we're practicing spiritual truths so we can live them. So we can practice them so that we can know how to live our lives in joy, how to live in happiness. Even when stuff is falling apart around us, we can still center ourselves in peace. So that's all part of the 4 pre-chapters. And they're called the thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and, my favorite, how to use it. How to use it. So we're doing that this month. And we aren't taking it chapter by chapter. We're just going over some of the terminology and the words that we use, the concepts in Science of Mind. And for those of you who have the textbook, I highly recommend that you read those pre-chapters. They're only 36 pages. And it really is the basis of New Thought, of this spirituality, of religious science. Sometimes the terms and the concepts, though, in our spiritual teachings, sound like another language. I remember first coming into it, I was like, what am I reading? What does this even mean? I mean, it's like a slightly different way of expressing ourselves, but once you get used to it, it's like everybody knows what you're doing. So what you manifest today, you know? Oh yes, I'm doing right thinking today. I'm aligned with the divine today. How are you today, Carol? Well, I'm good because God is good today. And when God is good, I'm good. So, you know, this is the way we start talking. We're in the vernacular, we're in the flow of it, and it's all uplifting. It all feels good. It's all supportive. It's great. It really is great. And so we learn some of these words. We've gone over some of the terms. And if that weren't enough, as I said, I'm adding a couple of new ones. Last Sunday, we added to our, last Sunday was great. Science of Mind, okay, they're all great. Every Sunday's great, you know. Last Sunday was great too because it was on pronoia.
Oh yeah.
Yes, do we remember? We're all proanoid. We all learned how to become proanoid, which is the direct opposite of paranoid. So, the full description of pronoia, then, is a true belief that the universe is conspiring for our good.
Yeah.
That is pronoia, and I always want to live as a proanoid. So being a proanoid, then, right? Having faith is having faith in the infinite possibilities that exist for all of us, and its desires and ability to do for us that which we shall ever need or have done. It does for us that which we cannot do for ourselves. And all we have to do is set our intention and be open and receptive. That's all we got to do. Just be open and open and receptive. Just allow life. Something doesn't work out. A plan falls through. Oh, well, something better is going to take place. Something else is going to uplift me. I'm going to learn a new lesson. Those lessons are just beautiful. They're always coming, so we might as well learn something from them. How to respond, how not to respond to different situations in life. And today we explore some more religious science of New Thought speak. We'll call it New Thought speak. in another, the long title, Developing the Consciousness to See the Absolute and the Spiritual Truth in All Things. So, first we're going to break down these three concepts here, and then we're going to put them back together again with some fun stuff. Because we like fun stuff. And first, one of my favorite topics, consciousness. Consciousness. If you were here last summer, I did a whole month of talks on consciousness. And we spent that time exploring what truly consciousness was. And we defined consciousness as the totality of beingness that we bring to the table of our lives. The totality of our beingness that we bring to the table of our lives. Doesn't that sound good? What does it mean? Okay. The totality of 8 elements. There are 8 elements that we discussed. And they were thoughts, feelings, beliefs, values, attitudes, words, actions, and reactions. All of those things make up our consciousness. You hear people say, yes, I have a really high consciousness, or my consciousness is absolutely open and receptive to all of His infinite possibilities. This is consciousness. It's all of us. It's what we bring to life as who we are. And we bring all of that as our personality. And those things all go in to make up our personality. So in order to embody the science of mind teachings, in order to bring them fully into our lives then, we want to develop our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our values, our attitudes, our words, our actions and reactions to see the absolute and the spiritual truth in all things. That begs the question, what is the absolute? You know, if you're walking here for the first time, you're like, I have no idea what she's talking about. So what is the absolute? Does anyone know? One word. It's simple. Thank you. That's what it is. Right off the bat. Yes, he's a good student. He's in class on Thursday night. We'll give him credit for that. God, the absolute. There are many different names for this incredible divinity. And one of them is the absolute. And that is a synonym for the word God. In the glossary of the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes defines the absolute, and this is what he writes. The unconditioned, that which nothing can limit. Hear these words, so good. That which nothing can limit. That which forever transcends any conceivable limitation or determination. Unconditional perfection. God is unconditional perfection. Self-existent, self-sufficient, often used as a synonym for God. And that's in Ernest Holmes in the back of his Science of Mind book in the glossary. That glossary is phenomenal for those of you who have the book. And if you don't, I would highly recommend that you get it. It's on our book table and everything else. The sign-up sheets and everything are all outside the room now. So they're not in the back. They're behind the back. They're around that. Just to let you know where everything went. Okay. Charles Fillmore, one of the founders with his wife Myrtle of Unity, wrote in the Revealing Word, which I'm going to get for us because it is a metaphysical dictionary. So I think we need to have the metaphysical dictionary. And it defines absolute as this. So listen to these words. Divine mind, unlimited principle, the almighty one, the all-pervading spirit, the infinite, the eternal, the supreme being, the one ultimate creative mind, the source of all things, that which is unconditioned, unlimited, unrestricted, and free from all limitation, the self-existent God. That is, all of those terms, if we're not comfortable, as some people aren't comfortable, and I love this word that came to me yesterday through someone brilliant in here sent a letter, interdenominational. We're going to be known as interdenominational. I'm liking that. How do you like that? Instead of trans or non, It's interdenominational. We're in and through and as all different spiritualities and religions. So anyway, the absolute then is just another word for God. And today we are about developing those thoughts, developing the consciousness with the feelings, the beliefs, the values, the attitudes, the words, the actions, the reactions, to see God and to see it in the spiritual truth of all things. So, anyway, I just skipped. I got so caught up with Charles Fillmore. I just love those words. Words have power, incredible power. I know there are some books that you can't understand what you're reading. I know the Hebrew textbook, the Hebrew Bible, it's like just feeling the words raises your vibration. So it's about those words. So yes, the absolute is another word for the divine. And what is then spiritual truth? How are we going to define spiritual truth? We talk about it all the time. Well, there's no better definition than one short line that Ernest Holmes came up with. And it's in his book. And it's perfect God, perfect man, perfect being. Perfect God, perfect man, perfect being. Period. That's the spiritual truth. This divinity that expressed itself through creating out of its own nature and peopled it with all kinds of demonstrations. Each one of us is a demonstration of God. Each and every one of us has been created out of this nature of God, perfect man, perfect God, perfect being. And the perfect that we're using isn't in human terms. Not perfectionist, but perfect in the divine means there is nothing askew, there is nothing missing, there is nothing lacking from this perfection of this creative genius. That is what that means. And in Science of Mind, in the textbook again, it's easy, he writes this, it's easy to believe that God is perfect. We must also believe that our spiritual nature is perfect. And since it is difficult to believe that outwardly we are perfect, we must confine our statements to a realization of our spiritual perfection. We must remain faithful to this vision, for a realization of the presence of God is the secret power of our work. We are perfect in our spiritual nature. The essence, the truth of who we are is perfect. It lacks for nothing. It is all in divine order. It is beautiful. It is love. It is peace. It is all of those qualities are the truth of who we truly are. That's the spiritual truth, the perfection of God. And it resides in and through and as each and every one of us. So say after me, the perfection of God resides in me.
The perfection of God resides in me.
Turn to someone else and say, the perfection of God resides in you.
The perfection of God resides in you.
And we take it a step further. The perfection of God is my perfection. This is the spiritual truth of me. So say, we'll break it down. The perfection of God is my perfection.
The perfection of God is my perfection.
This is the spiritual truth of me.
This is the spiritual truth of me.
And turn to someone next to you and say, the perfection of God is your perfection.
The perfection of God is your perfection.
And this is the spiritual truth about you. And this is the spiritual truth about you. So it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. So today in consciousness, now we all know the consciousness is the developing. Maybe we have thoughts and beliefs that no longer serve us, so we can clear them up and we can relearn new thoughts and new beliefs. So we're developing our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our values, our attitudes, our words, our actions, and our reactions to see the divine and the perfection of the divine in ourselves, to really know and connect with that divinity within us. That's the way to live life. then the outside effects, as disappointing as they can be, really can't harm us that deeply, because we have the spiritual self, the spiritual perfect self within us that is always there for us, that never disappoints us. There is no disappointment in God. I love that. There is no disappointment in God. There is only this givingness and this becoming in the divine. So that's what today is all about. And actually, it is our life's path. It is our journey. We are here because we feel good, hopefully, and I know it. I'm not even hoping. I know that we all feel good when we come in here and when we leave here. We should all feel good and take that feeling good into our lives and live it. Live it full out, live it, embody it, own it. Own your perfection. That's what we need to do. Own our perfection. So even bringing these concepts into understandable language, they are still, sometimes they sound pretty lofty and broad. And I want to give you some brief and fun examples right now of these ideas brought down to the human experience. Because, you know, I have to talk about that too before I go into that stuff. So a lot of times, and I discussed this with my prayer partner the other day, there's a lot of us who are, you know, we're into the spiritual teachings, and we really embody them, we really believe them. But you know what sometimes we do? Not anyone here, but I've seen it. We overlook the honoring of our humanity. We are here to have a human experience. So we're going to have human experiences. We need to learn to honor this human self, this humanity that I have chose to incarnate into. We need to honor it and to experience it fully. The suffering, the good, the love, the pain, all of it is all part of our soul's expansion. And that's why we have incarnated into these bodies. So let us always remember to honor these physical forms and be grateful that they carry us through life. I mean, our consciousness will be just floating all over because these human bodies are inside of our consciousness. So it's kind of like we go through life with this divinity within us, but it's not just within us. You know, I say that just for lack of a more expansive term. It's everywhere. We're all, that's the oneness. We're all part of it. We're individualized expressions of the oneness. So here are my examples before I pontificate any longer. Like that word?
Love it.
So David Sharnoff was an American businessman and pioneer of the American radio and television throughout most of his career, and he led this Radio Corporation of America, more familiarly known as RCA. In 1951, he demanded that his research team develop a mechanical tape recorder for both black and white and color TVs. 1951. We didn't have color TVs then. A member of the research team was heard to say this: "It's a wonderful thing to have an imagination, unhampered by the knowledge of facts." In other words, he felt that the fact, this engineer thought that the imagination was great, but there are no facts here. Can't be done. Can't be done. In other words, he felt that, in fact, it could never be done. However, within 5 years, they did indeed do what couldn't be done. They did what couldn't be done. You hear about this with Thomas Edison, with Ford, with all of these great thinkers, the Wright brothers. They had this imagination, and they thought of concepts and activities to carry out. Everyone else said, can't be done. Can't be done. Can't be done. Impossible, out of the dictionary. Get rid of it. So how does that apply then? Because in 5 years it became, as we all know, with our DVRs and I don't even know what else in technology. We have so much, and it's still evolving. So how does that apply then to developing the consciousness to see the absolute and the spiritual truth in all things? And how can science of mind words know what is the right thing to say? How do they know what it truly means? God's perfection lives as possibilities. God's perfection lives in our imagination. That imagination is a high faculty. When we bring our consciousness, listen to this, when we bring our consciousness to God's possibilities through our imagination, impossible things become possible. So it is the blending of our imagination with the divine, infinite potential. You put them together, all things are possible. All things are possible. And here's, we're going to move on to the example number 2. And this is from a cartoon. This is from Get Fuzzy, cartoon. Rob says to his dog, Satchel, "Crud, I forgot. I have to be at work next weekend." "Well, at least my boss won't be in there. Every cloud has a silver lining, right?" Satchel the dog says, "What does that mean?" "Rob, like even in a bad situation, there's some good?" Satchel, "Oh, it's like the old dog expression." "Rob, what's that?" Satchel, "For every trip to the vet, there's a good car ride in there." So don't think those little furry animals they got their own little paradigms going on. They do. Any animal person in this room will tell you that's the truth. That's the old dog thought process. So in Science of Mind, on page 53, he writes, "We should be able to look at a discordant fact in the face and deny its reality. Since we know its seeming reality is borrowed from illusion. We should be able to look at a wrong condition with the knowledge that we can change it. The realization that we have the ability must be gained by the application of our knowledge." And when we bring a new consciousness, a new way of viewing things, a new thought process to whatever we are looking at, whatever we are looking at changes. And we know this. We know this when we actually get out of the familiar little confining spaces, when we really open up to the infinite potentiality. We know there are no boxes. There's nothing. There's only the flow of life. That's all there is. So example number 3. And I've used this one before, but we're going to use it again. Just one of the next one, because they go so well with this talk. And you don't remember them anyway, so it's like I'm telling you for the first time. Svet twins. They were twins whose only resemblance to each other was their looks. If one felt it was too hot, the other one felt it was too cold. If one said the TV was too loud, the other claimed the volume needs to be turned up. Opposite in every way. One was an eternal optimist, and the other was a doom and gloom pessimist. Just to see what would happen on the twins' birthday, their father loaded their rooms. He loaded the pessimist room with every imaginable toy and game. The optimist room, he filled it up with horse manure. That night, the father passed by the pessimist room and found him sitting on the floor with all his new gifts, crying hysterically, bitterly. "Why are you crying?" the father asked him. "Because my friends will be jealous. Because I have to read all these instructions before I can do anything with this stuff. Because I'm going to always need new batteries, and my toys will eventually be broken," answered the pessimistic twin. Passing the optimist room, the father found him dancing for joy in this pile of manure. "What are you so happy about?" he asked. This is going to be tricky. To which the optimist replied, and this is what you've heard, "With all this yes, Trump used it recently in a talk. Not the whole part of Okay, so you got it. With all this blank, there's got to be a pony in there somewhere. The optimist, it's how we look at life. It's how we react and respond to life's giving us stuff. It's always giving us stuff. It's always giving us stuff. And finally, one of my favorite examples is number 4. There once was a woman who woke up. Oh, this one we did recently. This is so cute. Isn't it good to laugh? Yeah. Laughter is very good.
That's the best medicine.
There once was a woman who woke up one morning and looked in the mirror and noticed she had only 3 hairs on her head. Well, she said, I think I'll braid my hair today. So she did, and she had a wonderful day. The next day she woke up and looked in the mirror. She had 2 hairs left on her head. She said, I think I'll have to part my hair down the middle. So she did and had a wonderful, glorious day. The next day she woke up and looked in the mirror and noticed that she only had 1 hair on her head. Well, she said, I guess I'm going to have to wear a ponytail today. And she had a fun day. The next day, she woke up, looked in the mirror, and noticed there wasn't 1 single hair on her head. Yay, she explained, today I don't have to do my hair. And she went on to have the best day that she ever had. All in our attitude. That's right. All in our attitude. It really is. Something I'm still working on, as I'm sure many of us are. All right. So we can have the best day ever when we make that decision before we even open our eyes. Set an intention for the day. Make it the best day ever. Today is going to be the best day ever. Develop our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our values, our attitudes, our words, our actions, and our reactions. Developing them to align with something where we are going to truly experience the perfection of the divine in and through and as ourselves. Connect with that. In other words, in all things. In all things. When we do this, then, we live with a license of a higher order of being. To quote Thoreau, a higher order of being, a higher way of living life. It's not about the stuff you have, even though I love my stuff. My stuff is good. Oh, I love my stuff. But the stuff could go away. And guess what? This doesn't. This divinity, this essence is there forever. I came in with it, I leave with it. It's here now, I want to be friends with it. It is the way to live life. And so, I'm asking all of us to create a life that will be the greatest day ever. And you only have now, and you only have this day, so make it the best day ever.
All right.